Hi there, this is Kate Petty, the LG CreateBoard trainer, and today we're talking just a little bit about pedagogy. So, as new technology options are released for classrooms, instructional pedagogy workflows can develop to utilize these new options. One of the newer technologies is an interactive display panel, just like the LG CreateBoard behind me. Now, while IFPs have been in the market and in classrooms for a few years now, have we really seen a big difference in learning? Maybe we've seen teachers casting their desktops to the IFP to use as a display. We may have even seen teachers use some of the touch features like the whiteboarding app or annotation to mark up documents. But is it possible to move higher up on the SAMR scale to modify and possibly even redefine what is happening in the classroom with the features of the IFPs? Casting student devices to the LG CreateBoard can be a very powerful tool in the classroom. What happens when students see other students learning in real time? They begin self-assessing their own work and modifying what they're thinking to include the ideas from their peers. This isn't only a benefit for students. Viewing multiple student screens on the display allows teachers insight into the student thought process as well. They're great formative assessments to use during learning. So what if we taught in an upside down fashion? Normally we give students a vocabulary word and then we ask them to define it. And then we ask them to do some sort of extension activity like putting it into a sentence or maybe drawing the concept itself. What if we asked them to flip that right on its head and we asked students to explore something without giving them any sort of explanation or vocabulary for it? And then once they've explored, we ask them to describe what they saw. And once they've described what they saw, we can then give them the vocabulary words that go with their descriptions. Let me give you an example. So I was classically trained as an ELA teacher. That's very important for this particular exercise. And as I was looking for science resources for our LG CreateBoard website, I came across this interactive, activity from PhET where you can add protons, neutrons, and electrons to the little circle and kind of see what happens, kind of an experiment. So as I started adding the protons into the circle, I'm kind of looking around the board, seeing what's happening. I'm adding a neutron here. Maybe I'll add an electron. And then I added another proton. And what I realized is over here on the periodic table, the little red square went from the first H to the next HE. I was like, oh, okay. And then I added another proton and it went to the next one, the third one. And then I was like, wait a minute, if I add the fourth one, is it going to move to the beryllium? And it did. And I was very excited. And remember, I'm an English teacher, so this was all sort of new for me, right? So I realized that the number of protons is what moved things on this periodic table. And I was recounting this story to a bunch of biology teachers. And one of them said, yes, the atomic number of the element is the number of protons. Bam. I had a vocabulary word for what I discovered. Now, I still haven't forgotten this process and the name of it. Exploring and describing can be a very powerful tool. There is something to be said for not giving students answers and letting them kind of discover their answers on their own and through their own process. So you're probably wondering what this has to do with interactive flat panels. Here it is. How powerful would it be for me to have been exploring and explaining with a group of other students while watching and listening to what other groups were doing and saying? Some groups may have led us astray, but some may have pushed us forward. So I'd like to take a look at another example. So my friend Brennan is a math teacher in Santa Ana, California. This kind of explore, explain, define workflow is his brainchild for allowing students to discover the magic of math. Here I have a math problem that he created for his students in Google Slides, and then he sends it to the groups of students to work through. In edit mode, students are able to manipulate the graphing components to test theories, which would be the explore. They're then asked to describe what they find in the speaker notes just under the slide, which is the explain part. So while the groups are working, their screens are cast on the CreateBoard in sort of a Brady Bunch style. Each group can see what the other groups are doing and adjust if necessary, which leads to their own self-assessments. Mr. Brennan can watch the screens too to observe where misconceptions might be happening and which groups have figured things out. What a perfect formative assessment. So once the groups are finished, Mr. Brennan is able to zero in on specific screens to discuss the results, right and wrong, with the students. As the discussion moves along, the right answers are found, those accurate definitions are recorded under the student notes in the speaker notes section. So here's the challenge for you. Is there a way to pull back the traditional scaffolding and create a new scaffold for your students to explore a brand new concept, explain what they see, and finally, learn what the official term is for it? Okay, so thinking about this idea of explore, explain, define, we're going to take a look at 3 math resources that work brilliantly on the LG CreateBoard. All 3 allow for interaction while learning and give students the opportunity to explore the concepts first. We're going to be taking a look at Desmos, GeoGebra, and PolyPad. So let's check those out.